Game recognizes game. Convicted felon Donald Trump today rolling out the red carpet for the Saudi American prince, the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who back in 2018, our intelligence community, our CIA, issued a report confirming that Mohammed bin Salman, MBS as he's called, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, approved the brutal killing and assassination of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, how much was Donald Trump kissing MBS's ass? Well, why don't you hear it yourself? Listen to the following clip. This is after a reporter asked a question about Jamal Khashoggi to MBS.
He's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
It's just you ask, Mr. President,
please,
allow me to answer. I feel painful about,
Don't embarrass our guest like that. Whose guest? And the gentleman that Trump claims people didn't like, he's referring to Jamal Khashoggi. What the hell is Donald Trump talking about? And then the absurdity abounds because, you know what, actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me stop myself. Let's talk about what it was like when MBS arrived at our White House today. You ready for this? Trump welcomed MBS with an honor guard of black horses and herald trumpeters. Mohammed was treated to a flyover of 6 F-15 and F-35 fighter jets that, quote, streaked across the Washington sky as large U.S. and Saudi flags fluttered from the black horses of an Army honor guard that walked across the South Lawn in procession. Trump then escorted the Crown Prince into the White House, where the two leaders met in the Oval Office before a working lunch and then a grand dinner. Okay, so he gets a flyover, he gets an honor guard, he gets horses. I mean, he gets all of the grand treatment. This is after he was deemed to be a pariah because our intelligence community, our CIA, determined that he was complicit in the murder of Khashoggi. Now, here's the other thing that we saw and heard happen today. Trump grabbing the hand and the wrist of MBS while seated in the Oval Office, making fun of former President Joe Biden, who refused to do the same when MBS came in 2022, because Biden said, I don't want to shake the hand of a man whose human rights record is an abomination. So instead, what did Biden do? Biden did a fist pump. But let's see what Donald Trump did when he sat down and he was pretty much almost molesting Mohammed bin Salman. Check it out.
Mr. President.
And Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand.
I grabbed that hand. I don't give a damn where that hand has been. I grabbed that hand. First of all, what a disgusting display of obsequience to a man who was a part of the assassination and the killing of an American citizen. Secondly, what do you mean you don't care where that hand has been? I mean, listen, we know all about Donald Trump. Just grab him by the pussy. I'm surprised that he didn't try to grab the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia in his genital area at this rate. But you don't care where his hand has been? Well, we know where his hand has been. Let's talk about what happened to Jamal Khashoggi, because it is worthwhile to remind people how horrific that poor man's murder was. And all because of his strength and courage to speak out against things that were horrific going on in Saudi Arabia. In 2018, our American intelligence community confirmed that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia approved the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. According to the report from the CIA, an elite team of operatives that reported directly to MBS murdered Jamal. CIA director at the time, Gina Haspel, and other American officials were able to listen to a recording that was done and obtained by Turkish intelligence officials. That recording not only captured Khashoggi's struggle against those Saudi agents that reported directly to MBS, it recorded Khashoggi's killing. It also recorded the sounds of a bone saw being used on Jamal Khashoggi's body. At the time of the release of this report, Adam Schiff said the following, quote, "This is an official U.S. government statement that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has blood on his hands, and that blood belongs to an American resident and journalist." And I think that's very powerful. The CIA's information remains classified at this point in terms of the involvement of MBS and his culpability in Khashoggi's killing. But the Director of National Intelligence in the Biden administration, Avril Haines, said, quote, "We assess that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi." Now, what happened? Well, Khashoggi was lured to the consulate in Istanbul back on October 2nd of 2018. Saudi officials said, "Come to the Istanbul, Turkey consulate, and we're going to help you get the paperwork so you can marry your Turkish fiance." When Khashoggi arrived at the consulate, he arrived alive, but he never left, literally in one piece. 7 members of MBS's elite protective detail called the Rapid Intervention Force, or RIF, were part of a 15-man team that killed Khashoggi. That unit, RIF, has carried out a campaign of kidnapping, surveillance, detention, and torture to crush opposition to MBS. What did the Saudi government do in response to the news that Khashoggi had been murdered? The Saudi government issued a, quote, blistering response to the CIA report's release and the penalties that the Biden administration imposed, rejecting the document as, quote, negative, false, and unacceptable assessment about its leaders. It then went on to say that the Saudi kingdom had taken steps to prevent a repeat of the killing by prosecuting 8 people that had connections to Jamal Khashoggi's murder. The Saudi government actually put into prison 8 people, tried them in secret. 5 were originally sentenced to death, but then one of Jamal Khashoggi's sons said that he and his siblings forgave the men that killed their father, so a Saudi court then reduced the sentences from death to prison terms. The Biden administration imposed sanctions and penalties, and those penalties were against Saudi officials and included a travel ban, the freezing of assets of the kingdom's former intelligence chief, and sanctions against members of that paramilitary unit that took part in the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. The Biden State Department also announced restrictions on visas for 76 Saudis that were accused of suppressing or harming journalists, activists, and dissidents. Let me be clear. The CIA's report in 2018 states, without any equivocation, that MBS ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. According to this Times article, Prince Mohammed viewed Mr. Khashoggi as a threat and, quote, broadly supported using violent measures if necessary to silence him. Why? Why would he want to silence Jamal Khashoggi? Khashoggi was a Saudi journalist. He was a dissident. He wrote for the Washington Post and he was an author. He also began his career working as a correspondent in Saudi Arabia. And what he did was He wrote a column, for the Washington Post back in 2018, wherein he said that Saudi Arabia should have rights for women that are the same as men. He also said that all citizens should have the right to speak their minds without fear of imprisonment. He criticized the Saudi kingdom and the Saudi Arabian government. He also criticized the way that Saudi Arabia was operating in that region. And so he ended up basically in self-imposed exile because he knew that his views were viewed as being dangerous and his views were viewed as being just incendiary. And that is part of the reason why MBS wanted to silence him. When MBS was asked about the murder, even though Donald Trump tried to run interference to prevent the answer from coming out, take a listen to what MBS had to say about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi.
Journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way. And it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that. And it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Mr. President, this side, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We're doing our best that this doesn't happen again. Like it was some accident that Jamal Khashoggi was lured into the consulate in Istanbul and he was accidentally murdered so painfully that the CIA director and others heard it on a recording and it was an accident to dismember him with a bone saw? Notice no room for follow-up, no room to question that, right? No opportunity for our American media to independently stand as the fourth estate to be able to question a foreign head of state for a murder that our own intelligence community confirmed he ordered. And our American president sitting there kissing that man's ass. You know, in the earlier clip that I played for you, when Donald Trump was saying, "Don't embarrass our guest like that," he said, "Things happen." Again, like the murder of Khashoggi was just an accident. Things happen. I accidentally grabbed her pussy, right? I accidentally sexually abused multiple women. Is that what Donald Trump is saying? Just things happen like that? Birthday book entries to Jeffrey Epstein just happen? Please. You guys know that this is the first time that MBS, the Crown Prince, has actually come to the United States for a visit to Washington specifically since Jamal Khashoggi was killed in that Saudi consulate in Turkey, right? And I want to make sure that I give honor and space to the Washington Post director of press freedom initiatives, a guy named Jason Rezaian, who said, quote, "We at the Washington Post will continue to remind you that one of our colleagues in the not so distant past was murdered. That's not something we can just wipe under the rug or forget about." Make sure we remember that, right? Trump announcing today during the presser that his bond with MBS is so tight that the two of them call each other at all hours of the day and night. I wonder what Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Viktor Orban think about Trump cheating on them. The bromance is now apparently sizzling between Trump and MBS. Trump says, "We talk at night. We can talk. I can call him almost any time. He goes, 'Hi, how are you doing?' It's like the craziest times." If we weren't already an international joke, Trump is fucking hand walking us across that finish line. MBS announcing today that Saudi investments in the United States will be almost $1 trillion, up from $600 billion that had been previously announced, including artificial intelligence and rare earth materials. that pledged investment from the Saudi kingdom occurred today during that Oval Office meeting with Felon Trump. Trump also telling reporters today that he would approve the sale of F-35s, quote, some of the world's most advanced aircraft, to the Saudi Arabian kingdom. I just said it's Saudi American, didn't I? Saudi Arabian kingdom, although he indicated that U.S. support for a Saudi nuclear energy program was not there yet. I don't have usually a shortage of words to describe things, but in this instance, I am reminded very quickly that I want to share with you the following. Back in 2018, when I was still an independent, a non-party affiliated voter, because remember I used to be a Republican and I dropped my Republican registration. Do you guys remember when Donald Trump stood next to Vladimir Putin in Helsinki and in 2018 announced that he did not believe our American intelligence community or that of our allies, but believed the Russian intelligence, that there had been no involvement by the Russians whatsoever in the presidential campaign. No interference, nothing. Even though we knew, even though our intelligence community confirmed that there was interference in our elections by the Russians. And it continues to happen even right now, people. It's not like it's done. And as soon as Trump said that, I registered as a Democrat that day. Because I thought to myself, there is no fucking way that I can stand on the sidelines of a primary or any other type of relevant vote as a non-party affiliated independent voter when the ostensible commander-in-chief, leader of the free world, is saying that he doesn't believe our American intelligence. And this is the same shit, is it not? When our CIA issues this report showing that MBS ordered the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, we have no business, more specifically, Trump has no business kissing this man's ass the way that he did today. It is a horrific stain in our American history. It's also a horrific stain on the memory of Jamal Khashoggi by doing this today. And yet it's so on brand, is it not, for this president and for this administration? This president who is the king of grifters. We all know that there will be a Trump Plaza Tower going up in Gaza soon, and there'll be one going up now somewhere in Saudi Arabia in some grandiose, disgustingly grotesque, over-the-top way. Because that's all Trump knows, how to be grifty and how to be gaudy. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. Share this video far and wide so people can understand what an absolute disgrace Donald Trump is as an American and as the president of our country. Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.